We all know the cultural archetype of doubting Thomas. He is the foolish, faithless disciple, the ultimate cynic who refused to believe in the resurrection without physically poking his finger directly into a divine wound. Consider a different possibility. The story of doubting Thomas never actually happened. It is a 2,000-year-old piece of propaganda, a deliberate smear campaign invented by an emerging religious institution to destroy a rival faction. The physical evidence for this cover-up sat buried until 1945. That year, an Egyptian farmer digging near the desert cliffs of Nag Hammadi unearthed a sealed jar containing a forbidden ancient text, the Gospel of Thomas. Early Orthodox church leaders forbade Christians from reading this text, labeling it a heretical forgery. You can see why it made them nervous. The Gospel of Thomas contains absolutely no narrative chronology. It has no stories, no miracles, and no mention of a crucifixion. It is strictly a list of 114 cryptic sayings attributed to Jesus. Modern textual science suggests this buried document may offer a more direct, primitive record of the historical Jesus than any book found in a standard Bible, pointing to a potential 2,000-year cover-up. To understand why scholars date Thomas earlier than the New Testament, we have to look at paleography. Paleography is the scientific study of historical writing systems and manuscript evolution. In this field, there is a golden rule. As scribes copy texts over generations, they naturally embellish, update, and lengthen the language to make it sound better. They never simplify it. This animated diagram compares the evolutionary timeline of a single shared teaching, the mustard seed parable. On the left, the Gospel of Mark uses 71 words to tell the story. On the right, the Gospel of Thomas uses only 34 words to convey the exact same message. Mark's version is heavily refined. Scribes smoothed out the language to make the narrative highly digestible for a Greek audience. Thomas's version remains remarkably terse, blunt, and primitive. This pattern holds up under scrutiny. The Gospel of Thomas shares about 40% of its passages with the canonical Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. In almost every shared instance, Thomas presents the raw, unedited, older variation of the text. This linguistic data acts as a timestamp. It indicates we are reading the original, unfiltered koans of a historical Jewish mystic. Koans are short, paradoxical riddles used by spiritual masters to provoke deep contemplation. We are seeing the historical man, Yeshua the Nazarene, long before decades of storytelling mythologized him into a deity. Why did these primitive sayings trigger such an intense, hostile reaction from the early Orthodox leaders? To find out, we have to look at the specific teachings hiding inside Thomas's private riddles. Thomas documents a teacher focused on non-duality. Non-duality is the philosophical concept that the creator and the individual are not entirely separate entities. According to Thomas, Jesus explicitly teaches that the kingdom of heaven is not a physical place waiting up in the sky. It is a state of self-knowledge already sitting inside every human being. In saying 13, Thomas records a radical interaction. Jesus asks his disciples to describe him. When Thomas gives a highly mystical answer, Jesus refuses to even be called his master. Jesus states that he and Thomas have both become intoxicated by drinking from the exact same bubbling spring. They are spiritual equals. This mystical Jewish worldview diverged from the growing Gentile tradition in regions like Ephesus. To gain converts in the Roman world, early church builders needed a figure who matched the Greco-Roman template. Their audience expected pagan demigods who descended from heaven, performed physical miracles, and conquered death. The Thomas community posed an existential threat to this new structured religion. If salvation requires only inward contemplation and self-knowledge, then the emerging Orthodox Church loses its absolute authority as the exclusive, required mediator between humanity and God. The Orthodox faction fought back, using the Gospel of John. Scholars increasingly identify the Gospel of John as a polemic, a specific Greek literary format used for ideological warfare, engineered to crush the Thomas community. This split-screen graphic illustrates the point-by-point retaliation. In Thomas, Jesus claims the divine primordial light exists inside all people. In the very first chapter of John, the author directly corrects this. insisting the light resides strictly and entirely within the person of Jesus. The forensic comparison continues. The Gospel of Thomas literally opens by announcing it contains secret sayings. The author of John directly refutes this in chapter 18, scripting Jesus to explicitly state, "I have said nothing in secret." John then deploys the final stage of the hit piece, character assassination. To destroy the credibility of the mystical faction, the author invents a scenario where their leader, Thomas, is a spiritual dunce. He demands crude physical proof of the resurrection and is utterly humiliated by Jesus into submission. The Gospel of John rewrote history. By fabricating a foolish, doubting disciple, the Orthodox authors successfully buried a competing, mystical version of Christianity for nearly 2 millennia. John's hit piece proved incredibly useful. Its theology perfectly aligned with the needs of the Roman Empire, which eventually adopted Christianity as a state religion under Emperor Constantine. A sprawling empire requires a religion based on external worship, rigid hierarchy, and strict dogma. But the sands of Nag Hammadi prove the two Christianities theory. Right alongside the orthodox path of the Roman state, a vibrant, mystic tradition focused entirely on inner transformation existed from the very beginning. The 2,000-year-old smear campaign ultimately failed. The survival of the Gospel of Thomas offers a profoundly different invitation. We do not have to look up at the sky for a savior, because the oldest known teachings of Jesus are simply asking us to look inside.